Hi there BookTube, it's Eleanor here, and today you're going to be getting a slightly different video for my Bookbusters. It's not going to be a vlog, it's just going to be me talking, and I'm going to be discussing both the third book that I finished today for Bookbusters and also another book, because I think it works really well to look at it in a comparison. Both books have similar themes, which you know I'm reading books with autistic characters in at the moment, and I think that it's a really interesting way of looking at the two. The first book I want to talk about is a book that I haven't actually read for Bookbusters. I read it last week, and that book is The Rosie Project by Graham Simpson. Our main character Don is a 39-year-old geneticist who is struggling to find a date. He's socially awkward and he devises a strategy which he believes is going to be the best way for him to find the one, and that's through a questionnaire. He starts his research, and in sort of a fateful meeting, he meets a woman called Rosie. Rosie doesn't match anything that's on his questionnaire, but he finds himself intrigued by another project to add alongside his dating project. He starts to look for Rosie's biological father. And so we follow the story of Rosie and Don in Don's first person perspective, and we find out what happens from there. This was an enjoyable rom-com style story with a quirky main protagonist. There was plenty of humour in this book, but I think the problem for me was that it really lacked any sort of emotional connection and any sort of humanity, and I felt like the story and the plot ended up being fairly predictable. I feel like we were so focused on Don's inner monologue that sometimes the book lost its momentum and became slow and slightly boring. And I think it's so focused on us being shown everything that's going on that it just sort of gets a bit bogged down in places and really sort of made the pacing go quite off. I felt there was quite a lot of signposty moments as well. One particular point was that we're constantly being sort of told by Don that in these sort of hints that he doesn't really know how his mate met Rosie, and it's kind of like constantly being put in there as if to sort of say, yeah, this is going to be something that's interesting later on. And although we're never outwardly said that Don has autism, I feel that that's what we're being pointed towards, and I feel like sometimes the book crossed the line into poking humour at Don's disability rather than looking at it in a... It doesn't have to be serious like, but I felt like it was poking fun at his quirks, and I didn't like that in some ways. It felt wrong. It was an easy comical read, it was quirky, it was quite a fun read, and there was definitely a readable quality to the writing style. Let me read you a little bit so that you can hear it for yourself. This comes quite early on in the book. We're just starting chapter 4, and just to give you a little bit of a style to the book and the humour. Jean opened the door with a glass of red wine in his hand. I parked my bicycle in their hallway, took off my backpack and retrieved the Wife Project folder, pulling out Jean's copy of the draft. I'd pruned it to 16 double-sided pages. "Relax, Don, plenty of time," he said. "We're going to have a civilised dinner and then we'll do the questionnaire. If you're going to be dating, you need dinner practice." He was, of course, right. Claudia is an excellent cook, and Jean had a vast collection of wines organised by region, vintage and producer. We went to his cellar, which is not actually below ground, where he showed me his recent purchases, and we selected a second bottle. We ate with Carl and Eugenie, and I was able to avoid small talk by playing a memory game with Eugenie. She noticed my mark folder, The Wife Project, which I put on the table as soon as I finished dessert. "Are you getting married, Don?" she asked. "Correct." "Who to?" I was about to explain, but Claudia sent Eugenie and Carl to their rooms, a good decision, as they did not have the expertise to contribute. I handed questionnaires to Claudia and Jean poured port for all of us. I explained that I had followed best practice in questionnaire design, including multiple choice questions, Likert scales, cross-validation, dummy questions and surrogates. Claudia asked for an example of the last of these. Question 35. Do you eat kidneys? Correct answer is C, occasionally. Testing for food problems. If you ask directly about food preferences, they say, "I eat anything," and then you discover they're vegetarian. I'm aware that there are many arguments in favour of vegetarianism. However, as I eat meat, I considered it would be more convenient if my partner also did so. At this early stage, it seemed logical to specify the ideal solution and review the questionnaire later if necessary. Claudia and Jean were reading. Claudia said, "For an appointment, I'm guessing B, a little early?" This was patently incorrect, demonstrating that even Claudia, who was a good friend, would be unsuitable as a partner. "The correct answer is C, on time," I said. "Habitual earliness is cumulatively a major waste of time." "I'd allow a little early," said Claudia. "She might be trying hard. That's not a bad thing." An interesting point. I made a note to consider it, but pointed out that D, a little late, and E, very late, were definitely unacceptable. "I think if a woman describes herself as a brilliant cook, she's a bit up herself," said Claudia. "Just ask her if she enjoys cooking. Mention that you do too." This was exactly the sort of input I was looking for, subtle nuances of language that I'm not conscious of. It struck me that if the respondent was someone like me, she would not notice the difference, but it was unreasonable to require that my potential partner share my lack of subtlety. So that's just giving you a bit of an idea. And so as I say, it had a really readable quality to it, but unfortunately there was just too many cons in here. I didn't like the slow-paced parts of it. I did feel like we were constantly poking fun at Don in a sort of backhanded way, which I didn't appreciate. So I ended up giving this one 3 stars. Now, on the total flip side, I want to talk about the book that I finished, which is my 3rd book for the Bookbusters readathon, and that is the award-winning book. This book has won the American National Book Award, and I'm not sure, I think it might be middle grade, but it's certainly sort of young adult middle grade, and it's called Mockingbird by Catherine Erskine. Now, in this story from the very beginning, we become aware that our main character has lost her brother Devon, and he has been shot in a high school shooting. He's gone to the middle school and she's still at the elementary, I think it's called, before middle school, and he's been shot and killed. It was him and another student were killed, as well as a teacher at the school. And Caitlin, our main character, and her father are struggling to grieve. Their mother died quite a while back, and it becomes quite clear that her father is not coping well. Caitlin suffers from Asperger's and so struggles to make certain connections and is quite literal, and she's working with a counsellor at school in order to both help her with managing how she's feeling and also to help her to develop, to work on her empathy, to work on making friends, and to work on adjusting into a school environment a little better. And throughout the book we are hearing again in first person Caitlin's way of thinking, but I felt like this had managed to do the sort of quirky and interesting humorous things that we might find humorous, but given them a real depth and subtlety and not poked fun at them, which I think is really important. And I really liked Caitlin's voice in this. I thought it was incredibly clear and poignant, and I just thought it really built a picture of what it might be like to be someone suffering from Asperger's, which I really appreciated. So in this plot, the plot of this book, we learn quite early on that Devon, who is Caitlin's brother that's been shot, was really the one that sort of helped her to fit in, or helped her to sort of overcome some of the struggles that she found in everyday life. He helped her go out and pick clothes. He helped her to manage certain situations. He was a supportive network for her and really sort of helped her. And without him gone, that sort of steer and guidance that she had before has been lost. Caitlin's trying to work out how she feels. She talks about this recess in her tummy at times when she feels anxious and scared, and this sort of feeling crops up time and time again when she's in situations where she thinks about her brother. And then she comes across this word closure, and she looks it up in the dictionary, and she becomes fixated and obsessed on achieving this closure for herself. I think something that I have no experience of someone in my life close by that has Asperger's, but from reading reviews from people who have reviewed this book who have Asperger's or have people in their lives with Asperger's, they've said that they really appreciated how the author didn't go over the top and didn't really make things that happen in everyday life, maybe the meltdowns that might happen, seem much bigger than they actually are, and to overdo them, which they can sometimes be done in books. I think something that's really important that I've learned from reading some of these books is that we often misconstrue that someone with autism doesn't feel emotion, that isn't something they feel. And I think it's really important to note that we find out with Caitlin that they do, they just don't really know how to show that. They don't have the tools, or they don't think in the same way that we do, and so they don't show their emotions in the same way, and so we see it as cold, or we may see it as emotionless, but actually they do feel emotion, but it's just shown in a different way because their personalities and the way that their brain is structured is different. I found this book extremely emotional towards the end. I did cry. It was well on way to being 4 stars, but I think that well surpassed it for me, and I think I'm going to give it 5 stars because I really thought it was a very well written book, and definitely one that I would recommend to people. So that's 2 books I've read recently. One which I don't think was a very good representation of autism and an autistic character, although it was a 39-year-old autistic character. I just didn't like how that he was portrayed, and one which it was brilliant and a full 5 stars, so I'm really pleased that I finally picked this one up. So that's it for today on Bookbusters. I've got 2 books left to read during the week. I might read some more tonight, but probably not, and then I'm starting back at work tomorrow, so I will be hopefully getting through those second 2 books over the week to complete my Bookbusters board. I'm really excited to carry on with this readathon, and it's been great to see everybody's pictures and TBRs and tweets, so keep them coming and let's all keep reading. And yeah, that's it from me. Bye for now, BookTube.